YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is Pinstar Plays Dwarf Fortress Episode 2. So, we are here at the noble Axe Surprise, the random pregnancy of goats. And here is our outpost, or rather our outpost to be. Right now, it is just the wagon of all the stuff that we brought with us in our last episode, as well as our 7 dwarves, who have now been named. So we've got Chelona Bellamy, our metalsmith. She specifically requested to be a dwarf who is good with metal, so she has become our weapon and armor smith. Senat Huja is our current expedition leader. She does the talkie-talkie. Zenadar as our carpenter. And then for our squad, we got Butterfly Mama, Chickets, Valenrook, and Zephyra, rounding out the group. And as more dwarves migrate to our fine establishment, we will be giving them names as well. Once again, if you want your name in game, take a look at my Patreon link in the description below for details, and I'll gladly add you to the fort. Right then, we have a lot of work ahead of us because, well, one of the upsides to deferring to making stuff on site is that you save a lot of embark points. The downside is that you actually have to make a lot of stuff on site. So we need to get working here. So first things first, we have a bunch of workshops to set up on the surface. We don't even have the tools needed to break into the surface. So workshops, number one, we're going to, in order to break into the surface, we need a metalsmith. Now, when you're placing down your workshops, generally put them near the cart, and also favor locations where there's stone or otherwise not grass, because the grass can be used for either planting or grazing. I mean, it's not hypercritical. And also make sure you don't accidentally use your copper bars for the building material here. That's why we brought the granite. So we got our metalsmith set. Now we also need a furnace, a smelter granite as well. Now the smelter is going to take care of our fuel things once it gets built. And actually that's going to be the first thing that we want to do. Now on the other side of the equation, we need to take care of our farmy things. Because right now we have 2 drinks. That's it. And I realized I should have brought 1 drink of the other 2 dwarven types for the free barrels, but that's okay. We'll live. And we will get make sure our dwarves are served in alcohol. They won't need to drink for a little bit, but we will make sure that they have their alcohol. Don't you worry. But first we need free barrels, and for free barrels we need to use up the milk in our barrels here. That's kind of the milk and the wine and cheese gambit. See all of these different. This is why we took 5 of each. So each type of milk comes with its own barrel, and once we empty out the milk and turn it into cheese, that's a free barrel that can be used for whatever. So now we workshops, farming, farmer, and yeah, we'll put it over here. Granite, and we will also put a little stockpile. So we want the cheese to be put into a stockpile, both so it stays organized and also so it doesn't rot. Fun fact about stockpiles: it's more than just organizing your items. It actually, if you label a stockpile as a food stockpile and things are stored in barrels, it won't rot. That's really good because we don't want all of our nice food that we embarked with to rot on us. So I usually do a 2-tile stockpile here. Custom. This is only going to be for cheese. We will worry about the rest of our food elsewhere and later. But right now, this is just for our cheese gambit. Like that. And also make sure max barrels 2. Good. Once we empty out a couple of barrels, the barrels will be used for cheese. We want them to be used for cheese first, and then we'll start using them for distilling. Now, one other thing that we've got going for us is we do need to worry about brewing. Now, we did embark with a bunch of fruits here. Purple amaranth, cranberries, blackberries. All of these need to get dumped out. Now, not a lot of these can actually be used in growing here, but I have a solution for that. So purple amaranth needs to get emptied out. And again, you don't dump the bag, you just dump the stuff in the bag. All right, once they're all marked for dumping, we're also going to set up a still near our farmer's hut. Again, I want to build it on the rocky areas, but I also don't want to stomp on the randomly growing plants in the area because those could be harvestable. Granite. And then we'll set up, since there's several different types, we'll set up a stockpile nearby here. like right there. This is just going to be for refuse, and we will set up a garbage dump of the same area. We'll also make sure to tell our dwarves in the laborers, standing orders, refuse, and dumping to gather outdoor refuse. Otherwise, they won't take it off the wagon. We can always toggle this back, but a lot of times there's dead stuff on the surface that we want our workers to dump. Especially, this is going to be especially true when we get raids. Now, as far as other stuff to keep our dwarves occupied, well, we have an herbalist here, as mentioned before. I think it's Sanat. Sanat Huja is, proficient herbalist. So when Sanat's not doing the talkie-talkie and the negotiations, Sanat's going to be our chief herbalist. And that's because of her good memory. Memory helps in the herbalism skill. Now, there's a few things that I specifically want Sanat to gather right now, because this is one of the upsides to a good biome. There are two specific plants that grow in good biomes, specifically in Joyus Wilds. I don't know if they're exclusive to Joyus Wilds. They might grow in the other good biomes, the Mirthful and Serene, but I know they appear in the Joyous Wilds, which is one of the reasons I love them. One of which is these whip vines, these little turquoise things here. These things are really versatile. They can be turned into alcohol, they can be turned into flour, depending on how you process them, and they're more valuable than your run-of-the-mill alcohol or flour. We're mostly going to be using these for flour, but just for diversity, we are going to brew a little bit of them into that. But the king of kings when it comes to alcohol are these things: sunberries. Sunberries are when brewed into alcohol, turn into sunshine, which is the most valuable alcohol in the game. And that's good on two different levels. One, if you sell it, obviously you're going to get a lot more for it. If you cook with it, dishes cooked with sunshine as one of the food components are more valuable. But also, dwarves that just happen to drink it will have a more powerful, happy mood from drinking sunshine, because the potency of their positive mood is dependent on the value of the thing that they're drinking. So even if this valuable sunshine just goes down the gullets of our dwarves, that's still it's not going to be put to waste, because they will be all the happier for it. So we want to go out and gather specifically every sunberry we can get our hands on. So I'm going to scan basically the whole landscape here for these sunberries. They are not terribly common, but we have a few starting. I'm not going to force Sanat to try to ford the river here. We may eventually build a little bridge here to get at the goodies on the other side, but for now, I'd rather not have a drowned dwarf in our first couple of months. All right, I will see you in a moment once I flag all of the sunberries to be picked. All right, I think I got all the sunberries marked. Now, one other important thing: we go to labor, we go to plant gatherers. We don't want everybody to go off and plant gather for two reasons. One, everybody else has jobs to do. But two, we only want our more skilled herbalists to do this, because when a dwarf gathers from a plant, they have a chance of getting from 1 to 5 copies of that. So, and that's all based on their skills and natural abilities. So a newbie gathering a plant will probably only get 1 or 2, but a more proficient herbalist will get to 2 to 3 to 4 to possibly even 5. Where a max skill will always get 4 to 5, which will just increase our yield considerably. And since the number of sunberries on the surface is limited, we want our most skilled herbalist doing that. So only skilled doing that, and Sanat is going to be the only one who is going to be herbalizing. Now, there's other stuff to gather of worth, but I want to go after the sunberries first. Speaking of other things here, our squad is all going to be given the mining thing, because they all need to skill up on that. For a woodcutter, we could give that to Sanat as well. Since they're out in the field, they could cut down trees as well. Although we could also give that to Zenadar, since they're going to be working with wood mostly anyway, so they might as well chop down their own stuff. No hunters at the moment. We don't have the equipment, nor are we interested in hunting. Planters, as far as planters go, we can have everybody do that as needed for the moment. Fisher dwarves, I'm going to turn off fishing for the moment because I don't want to start fishing until until we're ready to start processing the fish, because you can't just eat raw fish. And fishing. So there's a mechanic in the game, and I think it's a fairly new one, called agitation, where the more bad things you do to the environment on the surface, the more likely the wildlife will spawn agitated, and that means they're just aggressive to you, when normally they wouldn't be. Fishing does cause some minor agitation. You can do it to a small extent, but you might as well not do it until you're ready to actually profit from it, and also have your defenses set up in case you do cause agitation. Chopping down too many trees causes agitation as well, but you can still chop down a few and not worry too much. Now, why are we worried about agitation? Well, let's take a look at the map and see who else is here with us. A couple of ravens, they're fine, although agitated flying enemies are no good. Pikes in the water, that's fair enough, we could probably catch that. But then we have this thing, a giant snapping turtle. So one of the quirks to any savage biome is that you're going to get giant versions of things. So there, in the game there exists regular sized snapping turtles, and they do their snapping turtle thing. But here we have a giant snapping turtle. And from what I understand of regular snapping turtles, they're pretty nasty if they get pissed at you. A giant one could probably bite a dwarf in half, so let's not piss this thing off. Thankfully, it is not an agitated giant snapping turtle, so it will probably leave us alone, and like I said, I intend to leave it alone. Right then, that's enough analysis here. Let's get back to our fort and, dare I say, unpause the game. Oh yeah, one other thing that we want to do, if we go to the pets and livestock here, remember how we embarked with stray dogs untrained? Now's our chance to train them, and this is where you go. Go to pets, livestock, and then you can either train them in hunting or war. And we're going to train them in war. We need a little bit of extra help in defense here. So we're going to mark them as thing. And since nobody is specialized in animal training, we'll let anybody train them. One other thing that we're actually going to want to do here is we're actually going to set up another farmer's workshop. This makes 2 farmer's workshop. While one is going to be our cheese central, we need to get to shearing our llamas to get our first crop of wool. So any shearable animal will provide wool every 300 days. So a little bit faster than once a year. But the sooner you shear, when you embark, they embark ready to be sheared from the get-go. So the sooner you get them sheared, the sooner you get your next batch of wool. So just getting a separate workshop down here just to shear them and then have that wool spun into thread will be useful for us. All right, now I think we are actually ready to unpause. So everyone's grabbing the granite stones. You can see how slowly they're moving. Those granite stones are heavy, which is why it caused them to move so slowly, which is why I advise, putting them near here. Okay, we got our workshop set up for the most part. I think we gotta wait for our, there we go. So first things first, remember how we bought just 1 coke? But we also bought a whole bunch of luminous coal. Yeah, we need to use that 1 coke to basically make more coke. You need at least 1 fuel to sort of jumpstart this chain reaction, but otherwise it makes a ton more fuel for our early smelting thing. So you want to make sure we do that. Now over here, this is going to be our make cheese thing. This is where we empty out all of our milk barrels to make cheese. And then down here, we are going to shear animal, and that's going to shear our 2 llamas. That will also automatically add the spin thread command, which will take the raw wool and spin it into useful thread, and then we can turn that thread into wool proper, and then, later on, I'm not going to be processing that stuff into finished goods like right now. We don't need that. Our dwarves do start with clothing for free. We didn't have to spend embarks on this, but don't worry, people aren't walking around naked or anything. This is not by any means armored items, but they have their modesty. And dwarves do get bad moods if they are not properly clothed, and clothes do rot away over time. So eventually you will need to have more clothing produced to replace just natural wear and tear. You know, just like real life. Oh, they got the wool put into the refuse pile here. Let's spin thread, repeat. The other thing, remember how I said that the food stockpile preserves things? The anything designated as a refuse stockpile actually accelerates rotting. So we actually don't want these to chill here for too long. In fact, let's. I think that's all of our stuff emptied out. So we can remove the stockpile, remove the garbage dump designation. Oops, and then unforbid those things. These wool should be reclaimable as well. And then yeah, with the spin thread, whoever grabs that job, yeah, we'll start spinning that into thread, and that should be good. All right. As soon as we see a couple of a barrel or two over here, then we know we're good. Also, we do see there's a lot of vermin, flies, and whatnot that can pick away at our food supplies, but that's why we brought the cat. Cat keeps down the vermin. See rat remains. Rat was going for some of our fruit, but cat said nope. I'm doing my cat thing. All right, kangaroo milk. All right, we've got some barrels here. Now it is time. Well, we don't have quite that yet, but we have all of our coke, and we're going to be getting more coke. So now it is time to get our first set of basic tools done, the pure copper ones. So we're going to get the single copper battle axe so we can chop trees, and then 4 copper picks so that we can start digging down. And stop right there, because we need to smelt our bismuth bronze before we go any further. But we do need these just to get started. All right, and yeah, we sheared both of our llamas, so now their wool will start regrowing slowly. And yeah, we'll spin all of the stray llama wool into llama wool yarn, and then that can be made into clothing and other stuff later on. Also, our 2 freebie animals that we got were 2 stray water buffalo bulls. So unfortunately you can sometimes get really lucky, and the 2 pack animals that you spawn with happen to be a breeding pair. But oftentimes they're either 2 different species, like, a camel and a horse, or they're the same gender. But in the rare chance that you get a free breeding pair, that's bonus win for you. But I think we are going to eventually just slaughter these buffalo bulls. They are worth a lot of meat and bones, which are very useful. We're not really set up and ready for that yet, so I'll keep them alive for now. Yeah, oh yeah, we got to build a carpenter's shops and a craft shop as well, all on the surface here. And yeah, we'll do granite and crafts as well, because now we have our axe made, so we can start chopping down trees. So let's talk trees. There's a couple of trees that are native to the good biome that I like, both for chopping down purposes, but also keeping them up purposes. Featherwood trees are one of my favorite features of that. So these things are useful to both keep up as well as chop down. Featherwood is the lightest material in game besides adamantine. And while it does not make the deadly weapons that adamantine makes, it's a lot easier to obtain. But it also, like, if you make featherwood barrels and featherwood furniture and other things, it's a really lightweight material for them to haul. Also, featherwood shields are no less protective, but are a lot easier for your dwarves to wield in battle. So I definitely want to chop down some featherwood here. But in the mix with that, see, pear tree, we don't want to chop down the pear tree. That's going to bear fruit in the summer and the fall, and that we can harvest and brew. Chestnuts, we can that. Apple, we don't want to chop that down either. Bayberries, basically anything that bears fruit, I do not want to chop down. Pear tree, willows, we can knock down. But there's one other type of tree that's native to the good biome. Let's see if we actually have some of it. I guess our map doesn't have it. Normally there's a tree called, I think it's like the highwood. It doesn't bear any fruit, but it grows really, really thick. And it also features only in good biomes. But I guess ours doesn't feature it. It's fine. I wasn't banking our entire strategy on having them. There's plenty of other trees here. And like I said, you can chop down a few, just don't clear cut the whole forest, or you're going to anger both the wildlife and the elves. And since we have an elven settlement rather close to us, we'd rather not anger the elves. They can be very good trading partners. There's a few things that we do want to make with our carver here once we get some wood going. That was rather close. So, little note here. When trees are actually taller than you realize. So the little single tile stump here hides a much larger tree with branches and whatnot. This is going up a couple of different Z levels. So when we're cutting these trees down, these are pretty big. Some of these fell onto Shona here, but it looks like it didn't actually hit her. But I've seen screenshots of other players where dwarves have gotten smushed, sometimes even killed by a wayward falling tree. So yeah, maybe I should have cut these down sooner rather than later. All right, now that we have these. So the reason I built a crafts dwarfs workshop is there is one thing I want to make here. A wooden nest box. This is for our turkey, and we just need to make one. Then we have a few other wooden items that need to be made in the short term here, out of wood that is. We'll get to beds in a moment once we're dug down deep enough, but for the moment, we want a couple of buckets. That way we can start milking our animals. Just 2 is all we really need. We also want 4 wooden shields. And these I want to make, I want to set the details to featherwood. Because I do specifically want the shields to be made out of featherwood. I'm not as fussy about the other stuff, but the shields absolutely should be made of featherwood. There we go, there's our shields. I've also queued up a wooden wheelbarrow and a stepladder. Remember those 2 things that were going to cost us 50 on the embark screen? Yeah, this is how easy it is to make them. You just need a little wood and a carpenter, and you have them. We can make a few more wheelbarrows later, but that should be fine for now. All right, now that we've gotten all of our coke that we need for the moment, I'm going to take you off of repeat, and then I'm going to tell you make bismuth bronze bars and repeat. Because now we got to take all that bismuth bronze that we brought and actually turn that into bismuth bronze. And we have enough fuel to power all of our other stuff. Now, we have 1 more forged copper pick and our other miners. So our miners should be ready to rock and roll. So let's start designating, let's figure out where are we going to dig down. Now, part of me kind of wants to dig down right where we are, but there's this little high perch up here. That's kind of speaking to me. Now it's kind of out of the way. It'd be a kind of a pain in the butt to migrate there, but if we were to migrate there, now would be the time. And actually, you know what? This little entrance right here is kind of talking to me. But actually, maybe not so much because things can spawn at the edge of the map, and that can give you ill time to prepare for them. So yeah, you know what? I think we're going to go center the map here, right where we are. We could always adopt that later on as like an emergency fort or something. That can be a longer term project. Oh, the other thing we want to do now that we have excess barrels, we want to brew drink from plant, repeat, brew drink from fruit, repeat. And now we'll be able to get more than just 2 drinks here, much to the joy of our dwarves. Now, to dig straight down. Also, one other thing, it's actually a pretty good idea to embark near one of these stagnant pools, but not too close. But that gives us a source of an easy way to muddy water in case we want to start underground farming sooner rather than later. I'm going to be depending on above ground farming for the early game, but underground farming is going to be a thing in due time. Right, let's get so we do dig stairwell. I prefer a 2x2 grid for our stairwells here. And once again, we might as well just tap into the stone. Now, you make the 2x2 grid and then you wheel down, and I go down a couple of levels here. Now, your dwarves may stop when they hit damp rock, because remember, we have that light aquifer, and I will show you how to defeat that light aquifer. It is not that difficult. Got the cat racing around doing their thing. And yeah, we got all these berries and other beer stuff right next to here. Now here, for the still, we do want to get an alcohol store place set up. Just so that they're... Actually, you know what? It can sit in the workshop for the moment. But soon so we're starting with plump helmet wine, which is fine. We did bring 5 plump helmets. Not the most economical thing, but plump helmet wine is definitely worth it, and that gives us more plump helmet spas. And there's the raspberries. Oh yeah, let's make sure our carpenter's workshop is being used by our carpenter, because we want them to be utilizing their skill. There we go. Now we finally got some of our miners free, so they will start digging down. Damp stone located, which is fine. That just means we've bumped into that. One thing we want to do is turn a couple of these into blocks. These will help us make walls a little bit more efficient. Do 3 sets of blocks. Doesn't really matter what type of wood they're made out of, but it makes them easy to transport. And one thing we can do, since there is damp stone down here, but there isn't over here, we can get our we can get our area set up for our well. So I like to make this fairly shallow in. So this is our well is one thing you want to do is when you have damp rock, you want to dig out an area 1 Z level above it, because there's a very easy way to make a well, which I will show you how. And that also couples very nicely into a hospital, because injured and sick dwarves need access to fresh water. Now on the other side here, we can also start our barracks, which we also want near the surface, because that's where we want them to grab their stuff. So yeah, instead of digging down, let's keep our miners busy by digging these things out. All right, what are... Shona is still idle. Prefer Shona be doing some of these other things instead of spinning the thread. You know what, Shona, I'm gonna have you also work the smelter. And that way that'll free up another one of our squad. I'm fine as long as everybody is busy, because there is a lot of work to be done, especially with the early spinning of thread. They're almost done processing that one. See, that's how much wool you get out of a thing. We just need to make sure this wool gets used up before it starts to rot. Same goes with these. Ooh, there's our sunshine. We have some sunshine. Yeah, sunshine. So now our drinks are definitely spoken for. And actually the other thing that we can do now that we have that is once we brew with them, that will give us some seeds. They may have those stored elsewhere, but that's okay. So we can start setting up some farm plots. So let's start with one farm plot. So farm plots are workshops, farming, farm plot. And I've done some searching on the wiki. I've crunched some numbers. The ideal size for a single plot that I happen to like is 3 by 5. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. That's useful both because of high yields, but also very efficient use of fertilizer once we get to that stage. All right, we still have just one miner digging, but that's okay. All right, there's our sunberries. We do be wanting to plant more sunberries in this one. We will also be doing another plot of raspberry bushes. Those are the others that grow here naturally. I think the others that we embarked with don't necessarily grow here because of the climate and biome, but that's okay. We can get that. We can always toast those seeds into food, so they won't go to waste. Farming, farm plot. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that'll be our raspberry plot. So much work to do and so few dwarves to do it. But will we be able to get everything done? And what will our first migrant wave give us? Will we get the help we need and the skills that we need? Because migrants are a bit of a grab bag on that front. And will there be any nasty surprises that appear in the Joyus Wilds to disrupt our efforts? Find out next time. If you guys like this episode, see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment. Good, bad, or indifferent. Your feedback's always welcome. So until next time, it's been Pinstar signing out. See ya!